سلام علیکم.
حالتون خوب انشالله.
الحمدلله.
خدا حفظتون کنه. دوستان آماده هستن؟
بله استاد انشالله در خدمت. در خدمتتون.
خواهش میکنم. خب من متن رو هم به اشتراک میذارم. میبینید متن رو؟ بسیار. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. لا حول ولا قوة الا بالله العلی العظیم. الحمد لله رب العالمین و صلی الله علی سیدنا و نبینا ابی القاسم المصطفى محمد و آله الطیبین الطاهرین لا سیما بقیة الله فی الارضین عجل الله تعالی فرجه الشریف. اللهم اخرجنی من ظلمات الوهم و اکرمنی بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا ابواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. In the last session we studied different types of desires and their role in our moral decision making. We also argued that there is no genuine desire in us which is basic, which is real, and can only be satisfied by immoral choices. There is no such a desire. Our desires are either neutral or they are moral. Desire for food, for drink, etc., these are neutral. They can be satisfied through immoral actions or through moral actions. It's up to us to direct them. And desires like desire for knowledge, for beauty, for anything which is exclusive to human beings, we said they are moral. And we can, of course, distort them, but by nature they are good. They are helpful. So, we mentioned some points here. Now, in this part, I suggested that we can reflect more on some desires which are not corporeal, which are not bodily, and see how they function. Desire for freedom, desire for comfort and rest, and desire for excitement. So when it comes to desire for freedom, I said it seems that there is no doubt that every human being by nature, by their own nature, they want to be free. They don't want to be forced to do something. The Quran says, يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانُ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَهُ. Of course, this is an exaggerated condition in human beings, but it is rooted in the desire for freedom. But sometimes this desire for freedom is misguided, misoriented, and then they don't want to accept any limits. So, human beings like to be able to exercise their power, to exercise their willpower in particular, and do what they want. We said that sometimes children actually, even if they don't like something, if we tell them not to do, they want to prove that they are free and they do it. And if sometimes parents say they don't eat or they don't study, etc., and they don't listen, so they may say it in the opposite way. They, say, don't eat this, or I give it to someone else, and then they decide to eat it. In teenagers also this becomes very strong, that they don't want to sometimes listen to their parents because they think this is the way that, unconsciously even, maybe they think that this is the way to establish their own independence. So we talked about this, and then I said it seems that this desire for freedom in itself is not a bad thing. It's not leading to immoral or illegal actions. And the only thing is that you have to have enlightened understanding of this desire. If someone thinks that because he is free or she is free has to do something illegal, for example, to steal property of other people, this is misuse, miscalculation. Desire, the second desire for comfort, for rest. For example, sometimes this can be combined with desire for food. So I am hungry, I have desire for food, but I think it's going to take time if I want to work or I want to, make my own food. So desire for food combined with the desire for comfort may push me towards taking someone else's food. But this doesn't mean that I have a desire for taking someone else's food, or I have a genuine desire for theft. No, it's combination of two desires which in themselves are neutral. At least, if they are not against theft, at least they are neutral. Desire for food, as I said, is neutral. Desire for comfort, if it is understood properly, it's not neutral, but at least we say, okay, it's neutral. One important aspect of our process of decision making, moral decision making, is to know how to work with these different desires that we have. Why you prioritize desire for food and comfort to desire that every human being has for honesty, for being kind, for being not selfish. It can be a matter of our upbringing or the way we have developed ourselves, the pressure in the society, etc. But we have other desires. We cannot do something for which we have no desire. We cannot ignore all our desires. But it's up to us to choose what type of desire to prioritize, what type of them to go after. Some people say it's only a matter of your information. Those who have more a strict approach to rationality. But we said no, it's not just a matter of information. People with the same information, sometimes they decide to work with these desires in different ways. If you remember, we said we have three types of desires. One is what I called abstract intizai. These are not physical, they are not semi-abstract, they're abstract. So here I say that these are the desires which are available only in human beings. You cannot find them in animals, they are exclusive to human beings. And they are in themselves good because they help us with developing humanity. Insan Kamil, which means a human being who has developed in his humanity, is also morally excellent, is also near to God. We believe that completion of humanity in us and getting nearer to Allah are two sides of the same coin. I have discussed this in Akhlaq lectures of the House of London. So here I have quoted something from Self-Knowledge, which is my first book. Alhamdulillah, I had tawfiq to teach I think it was about 95, 96, some Shia youngsters, students from the West who had come to Qom and Mashhad, something on self-knowledge. And then, alhamdulillah, was completed, and I added about 1/3 of discussions to it, and became the book Self-Knowledge. Over there I have said this, of course, I have translated here into Farsi. So I said that why things which are exclusive to humanity are good. Before saying this, I would like to use your knowledge of philosophy, because it makes it easier. You know that in philosophy we say حقيقة الشيء بفصله الأخير. Reality of everything is decided by its very last differentia. Although every mahiyya is in need of all essential parts. You know, we have jins and fasl. But jins qarib in itself has previous lower genus and differentia. For example, جسم نامی متحرک حساس بالإراده ناطق. Jism by itself is جوهر قابل للأبعاد الثلاثة. So all these are included in ذاتيات of a human being. جوهر قابل للأبعاد الثلاثة نام حساس متحرك بالإرادة ناطق. All of it. So to have a human being, we need all of them. But what makes a human being a human being? If you say all of them, we say no. Yes, all of them are needed. But if you say what makes a human being is not what human beings share with other physical objects or with other plants or with other animals. It's what they actually have exclusively. And that is their last differential, natiqiyat. Natiqiyat makes us different from other animals and other creatures. So therefore they say, حقيقة الشيء بفصله الأخير. The reality of everything depends on its very last differentia. Now, I have put it in a simple language. I said, imagine if you want in your garden to have an apple tree. So you choose a special type of apple and say, I want to have an apple tree. So let me go and buy sapling of this kind of apple tree. So you buy it, you plant it, you wait till it starts bearing apples. If you see that this is a good apple tree, it's growing, but it's not bearing any apple, it just has the branches and the leaves, it provides you with shadow, nice look, but no apples. You say, oh, I don't want this. I have to replace it. I have to buy another one and plant in its place. Or if it gives you apple, but apple which is not what you wanted, it's very dry and maybe something that's not tasty. Or you realize that actually it was not apple, it was something else that you didn't want. So unless you get what you want, you are not satisfied. You wanted a specific type of apple. So you may say, but that a specific type of apple tree is also a tree. It's also an apple tree, or it's a piece of wood, or it's a piece of physical object, it's a piece of matter. So yes, I know they are all part of that special type of apple tree. But my interest was not because of those things that it shares with others. My interest was for the very last point, which is exclusive, and that is this type of apple that can, be given by this tree. This tree can bear this type of apple. And if I don't have it, I am not satisfied. Maybe even I decide to remove this tree and plant another tree. So human beings would have their human life if their life is not restricted to what they share with animals. If it restricts our life to what we share with animals, is animal life. If we restrict our life to what we share with plants and animals, then it's plant and vegetative life. If our life is just at the service of what we share with animals and plants and non-living beings, like a stone, so it's just a physical life, a kind of, life as a, object. There is a piece of wood which is 80 kilograms, 70 kilograms, 50 kilograms. There is a human being which also weighs the same, if it is kept to the level which is shared with non-living beings. So, if you want a human life, it should be the type of life in which focus is given to what is exclusive to human beings. And then, of course, we have to do other things as well. We have also to eat, drink, and do what animals do, or what plants do in order to have their life, breathing, etc., nutrition. But we say, if other things are done, not in violation of human exclusive needs, not in violation of them first, and not disregarding them, then they are also fine. They are prerequisites. So I live not for eating and drinking. I live for human values, but I need to also eat and drink in order to be able to achieve human values. No problem. I can do some animal things as long as they are not against human values. So I don't do eating and drinking to the excess, or by stealing, etc. And also I do this not independently. It's not that part of my life would be just for eating and drinking, and part of my life for knowledge and beauty and kindness and love, etc. It should be that I build my life around human values and do others in order and as much as they can help this one. So this is a discussion here, and then again I have tried to explain that how something which is really in a genuine way in a human being, it's not immoral. Now, our main discussion is a quick review of all the factors that can bear upon our moral judgments. It's very important, because if you don't know these factors, then you may not handle them properly. Maybe some factors, unknowingly, they push themselves. Maybe some factors, you ignore them. So it's important that you are aware, you're conscious of everything that can bear on your moral judgment. One part is your beliefs, your ideas, and information that you have. As objective they can be, as better they are. The data that you have, information that you have, but also beliefs that you have, the worldview that they have, they make big difference in your moral judgment. Number 2, desires. Desires are also very important. Of course, the genuine desires are shared by human beings. The thing is that in some people, sometimes they become active, in some people they become passive. In some people, one desire becomes very prominent and they ignore other desires. In some people, no, they have they try to have a balanced view. So desires are there, but desires can play different roles depending on how much we have worked on them, how much we have trained them, how much we have regulated them. Some people are brought up in the way that they are very lazy and they just want their own comfort. They want always, quick solutions. They want always, quick achievements. Some people are brought up with more sense of hardship and undertaking responsibilities, etc. So these can have different roles. Again, I have explained that we don't have desire as such for bad things. And then the third thing, we talked about beliefs, information, ideas. We talked about desires. Number 3, which is very important, your own will, your own decision. Although internal factors and external factors play a role, but then at the end it's you who can decide. And without free will, there is no way to talk about akhlaq. If someone says human beings have no free will, okay, then akhlaq becomes absurd. Because akhlaq is about our voluntary actions and our voluntary qualities. Anything which I have no control over it has no moral value, no moral status. So, where our exercise of willpower can show itself, where are the areas that people can vary and can differ because of different ways of exercising their free will? 1, what type of ideal or ideals are you looking for in your life? What type of values you want to achieve? This is a very important choice. People can choose different ideals and different kinds of ideal life. Based on that, they can make then their secondary decisions. This is not forced by anyone on us. Maybe people try to promote, one type of life, one type of ideal, but in the end, we have to choose. Another thing which is very important is how willing and prepared you are to acquire proper data and information. Unfortunately, some people rush without collecting enough information, without seeking opinion of other people, without thinking about consequences and outcomes. They rush and make decisions. But if you are far-sighted, if you are experienced, if you are wise, then you know that you cannot make proper decision without knowing all the facts, as much as you can. We have always limits. We cannot know 100% everything, but as much as possible. At least I can make a rational choice. If I have done my best, إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة. If you have received a news from someone who is not reliable, you must inquire. And that is if that person reports you, as we say in fiqh, an hissen. If he reports you based on his perception or her perception. If it is based on his or her reasoning, of course, you need to inquire anyway, because he may make mistake. The chance of a person making mistake in reports which are anhissen, which are based on perception, is very low. And if someone that I trust says, I have seen this, okay, I can trust. In some cases, I may need two people to bear witness, two witnesses, sometimes one, sometimes four. But if someone has shared with me result of his thinking and reasoning, of course, it's different. This is not shahada. And here we need to look into the arguments and reasons behind. In any case, what is important is that fatabayyanu, we must inquire, so that we don't, then get into problem with people out of jahala. And jahala here doesn't mean not to know, it means not to act wisely. Not to act wisely is partly because you don't know, and partly because you know, but you didn't act wisely. You didn't act upon the information which was available. In any case, this is a very important area. Number 4, sorry, this was number 2. Number 3, after the previous 2, now a matter of organizing, prioritizing, working with our desires. Which one you want to prioritize, which one you want to have preference. I was thinking a lot about, free will, and one of the areas that I've been thinking from my early years of talabegi, actually, I think maybe from first, second year, was this issue of free will. So when I was writing my PhD, I thought maybe the greatest area for locating human freedom is here. Not in information collecting, although that is important. But suppose all the information are given to you. Yeah? And suppose two people have the same ideals. Still they can make different choices. One important area is this one. And that is how they want to organize and prioritize their desires. And therefore I don't accept idea of people who say only data is enough or are enough. Only reason is enough. No. We have other factors as well. I said it seems that we can have a middle ground between those who just focus on aql or on desires. Let me read this part, it's important part. ظاهراً موضع حد وسطی میان قول به این که میلها فقط به عنوان داده‌هایی برای عقل عمل نموده و نقشی در انگیختن فاعل ندارد. It's like a computer, you give data. If a computer is programmed that when, for example, temperature reaches this point, you switch on the air condition. So some people say, for us it's the same. When we receive information, data, then we act upon it. I said this is too little. This is one opinion. Another opinion is to say, میلها را نیرو یا الزام دانسته و جایی برای اختیار یا استدلال باقی نمیمونه. They say, desires are like forces, suppose force in nature. Imagine flood comes and take you from where you stand to hundreds of meters away. Are desires like this? Just like flood that comes and take you away. You have no role to resist. So I said it seems we can have something between these two positions. One is to say that we are just like a robot, like a computer. Data is enough or enough to trigger us. and saying that forget data, anything, just desires come and we go by them. I say we can find something in the middle. Desires would persuade us to certain actions, to move towards certain actions. But it's up to us to choose which desire to follow. If we had only one way in front of us, there is no free will. There must be choice. Why we have choices? Because we have different desires for different options. If you had options without desires, they are not options. Because without desire, we don't do anything. It's just a matter of which desire. I said two people in similar conditions may make different choices. Give them the same information. Give them the same attractions. The same desires are functioning. But still, one may make decision to ignore this kind of desire and prioritize another kind. The other one may do the same or opposite to that. Even one person can make either this decision or that decision. I say two people to make it easier to understand. Otherwise, even one person, we cannot say he must make this choice. He can't make another choice. If you say no, he must make this choice, then free will is finished. At least in the sense of intikhab, or choice is finished. You can say, okay, this is the way his will is shaped, but then it becomes like angels, for example, who have no choice. They are not forced by outside. Irada means they act according to their own essence, but they don't have intikhab. So I said, if desires are acting, serving as just some data in addition to other data about, for example, cigarette. I have some data about, for example, smoking, but also my desires are there. Add them together and then decision will be known. Some people say like this. We say, no, this is not enough. For them, the only reason people make mistake is that because their data were not convincing, were not satisfied, were not certain. But we say, no, you can have best of data and make wrong decision. According to them, you can only blame people if they were not careful in collecting data, or they didn't argue properly. So they have problem of information, or problem of not following logic. But I say no, it can be more than that. In addition to that, they can have problem that they don't want to go by logic. They don't want to go by information that is available. For another area which is very important in decision making is how they want to apply this desire. Suppose you decided to satisfy the desire for sex. How? Among all desires, you chose this one, but how? Even this can be satisfied through marriage or through immoral relation. So here also choices are important. Another factor is how sharp, how intelligent, how trained, how skillful people are in making moral assessments and evaluations and judgments. This is also very important. Some people have very critical mind, very analytic mind. They can really distinguish between different things even if they look similar. Some people, they are not trained at least that way. They are not experienced that way. Number 5, conditions which surround this case These conditions can be physical or mental conditions of the agent, the doer, feelings and emotions of the doer, capabilities of the doer, and also other people, what conditions they have. For example, a mu'allim, a teacher, in addition to his or her own conditions, should consider conditions of each student and the class and the school and the parents and the guardians of a school, etc., the rules and regulations, customs of the society. Many factors are there to be considered. And if these change, it can affect the decision. Here, I have quoted something very interesting. From the first day I saw this, I really liked it. It's a discussion by Paul Taylor. He tries to expand on what are requirements for a rational choice. Very beautiful discussion, and inshallah I will try to find the English version also for you, because I think I have quoted this in my book, Ethical Relativism, my thesis. This is I made translation to Farsi. So he says a rational choice is the one that is free, azad, I translated it azad, roshan binane, enlightened, and impartial, not biased. And then for each of them, he has some criteria. Free, enlightened, and impartial. If your decision is not made freely, people have forced you, for example, this is not a rational choice. If it is not enlightened, for example, because you don't have enough information, then it's not a problem. It's not acceptable. And if it is not impartial, if you have been biased, again, it's a problem. He believes himself that it's impossible to have perfect, free, enlightened, and impartial decision. We human beings, he says, have some problems either in being free, there are pressures, or in being enlightened, there are problems in information, etc., or we have some bias. It's very difficult not to be attached to any of the sides and options. Yeah, so perfect decision is not available according to him, and it makes lots of sense. I don't want to say it's not possible, but I want to say it's very difficult, at least for ordinary people. Those who are purified, maybe, or if we talk about ma'sumin, of course, but ordinary people, yes. Now, how something becomes free? A choice becomes free. What are the requirements for being free? Number one, your choice must not be determined by unconscious motivations. Sometimes there are unconscious things that I think they are not working or they are not even existing, but they are functioning. They take me to this or that choice. So there must be no unconscious motivations. 2, there must be no pressure from inside. We will talk about outside next. What do we mean by no pressure inside? For example, sometimes I'm very angry. Sometimes I am very upset. Sometimes I'm very happy. Sometimes I'm very excited. There must be no internal pressure that would be irresistible or would be very strong. If there is a little pressure, I can resist, but if it's too much, it's overwhelming, then my decision will be affected. 3, there must be no external pressure. External pressure also would not let me to make a free decision. Of course, we don't say it's impossible, but there is a chance that your freedom might be limited. Some people can resist, but many people don't resist. 4, it must be your preference, your choice that ends the process of assessment. Nothing from outside, no pressure even from inside. You make the decision. These are all about freedom. Then your choice, your decision must be enlightened. He says by enlightened we mean when, first of all, you know what is the nature of each type of options you want to choose. For example, you want different ideals, different lifestyles. Do you know what each lifestyle is going to look like? Do you know what they involve? What pleasure and pain, what opportunities they bring, what harms they may bring? If you don't know, your decision is not enlightened. In other words, you are not making informed decision. You are not making, wise decision. So, the nature of each kind of lifestyle or approach should be known. Their influences and likely consequences should be known. And 3, you must know what each of them needs. Maybe you make a very good decision, but for example, suppose you say, I want to become a doctor, but there is no one to train you. There is no medical school. There is no, teacher. There is no book. You don't know. You just consider that, okay, being a doctor is good. I can help people. But necessary tools and requirements, are there or not? And then about being impartial. These are the conditions for being impartial. 1, it should be regardless benefits and interests that you have. So, no one should bribe you. Or it should not be because you have been already enjoying something and you don't want to lose them. For example, I am working for someone who has power, for example, who has money, etc. I see if I make a decision against his will, I am going to lose my job. I'm going to lose, my position, for example, my power. This should not affect your decision. If you are making decision in order to keep certain privilege that you have, or in order to receive some bribery, no, this is not impartial. Or for example, I want to make this decision because it's better for my family, or this person is my friend who is going to be interviewed, and I want to accept my friend and not a stranger. The second thing is that your choice must be objective and detached. Mun'azil. What does it mean, detached? It means that it must be something that you are not already committed to it. You have subjective relation with it. If you have subjective relation and you are able to disregard it, it's fine. But many times if you have subjective relation, for example, I am a judge and this person is my friend, my relative, or my enemy. How many people can disregard this and just make objective and detached choice? Third, it must be not biased. It must be not biased. Or you can say unbiased, which means not biased. What does he mean by being biased? Means متعصبانه. He says, if, for example, you have been a person that is brought up with certain culture. Suppose you are brought up in an educational system that is liberal. Okay? Then he says, this is good for him. Why? Because in liberal education, hopefully, they don't fix any kind of value systems or value sets. It's neutral. They just let you to grow. But if you have been in a system that they have been forcing and internalizing in you some kind of, for example, totalitarian values or some kind of fascist values, etc., then you are already biased. Of course, you can work on removing traces of those things, but it takes time. Also, something that is very important is that you should have rich experiences. Someone who has not traveled, someone who has not lived with different kinds of people, have not been through different, countries, systems, his mind is very much, shaped already. Cannot go and think outside the box, as we say, we say to think outside the box, because it's already confined. So, these are very good points that Taylor mentions. Of course, if you want to have all these, 100%, it's not possible to make any, really free and objective decision. But I think these are very good in the sense that at least make us conscious, at least make us work hard to get as much as possible information, expose ourselves to different opinions. If you are a person of discerning, of course. If you are not a person of discerning, you follow someone who can discern. But if you are a person of discerning, get opposite view, opposite information, try to enrich your experiences, especially by being exposed to different cultures, different customs, different ways of thinking. Try not to be making decision which is pressurized inside you, internally or from outside. Don't go by fashion, don't go by media, by what people who have power suggest, by majority, minority. No, just consider haqq. Basically, all this is to be truthful. نحن أبناء الدليل نميل حيث يميل. We are children of reason. We go by reason. We don't go by majority, we don't go by power, we don't go by fame, we don't go by, customs of this country or that country. We go just by reason. That would be, of course, an ideal, and we should get closer and closer to that. I said, although some of these points that he has mentioned can be questioned, or maybe it's impractical, it's not possible, but I said serious consideration of these points can really help us in better acting and better judging others who act. Then we inshallah discuss in the next session moral concepts, and we try to analyze moral concepts, how our mind comes to concepts like right, wrong, good, bad, out, not, obligation, and how we can analyze them. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Are there any questions? Any questions? May Allah inshallah bless you and keep you safe and healthy. I need your du'as.
Thank you so much.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ahsantum. Fi aman Allah. Khuda hafiz.
Khudafis.
Khuda lage.